In other news, the 2007 Energy Independence and Security Act mandates increasing use of plant-based biofuels, and it requires those biofuels to start coming from non-food crops from cellulosic plants over the next few years. Now, the biofuels industry has been testing out all kinds of plants to try to figure out which ones make the best feedstocks for ethanol refineries. Well, now a federal advisory committee is raising a warning about potential unintended consequences for the biosphere. Our executive editor, Margaret Ryan, has that story. Hi, Margaret.
Hi, Susan. Well, when you hear about cellulosic ethanol feedstocks, kudzu might not spring to mind, but the Invasive Species Council and its Citizen Advisory Committee say kudzu is a good example of what they're worried about. That's an Asian vine that was once promoted for erosion control, but proved uncontrollable itself, with fast-growing tendrils that take down trees and utility poles all over the southern U.S. Now it's seen as a destructive nuisance. Now, the council doesn't want to see that history repeated as biofuels are developed, as I heard today when I spoke with Council Director Dionigi. Okay, the council is an interagency advisory group that's co-chaired by the Secretaries of Interior, Agriculture, and Commerce. Dionigi says it's absolutely not opposed to research to develop better plant sources for biofuels or other research like algae variants for carbon capture, whether through traditional hybrid methods or through genetic engineering. But the council does want proper checks in place early in these projects.
Things need to be done carefully. I think they need to be guided by science. I think we need to plan for the unanticipated. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, specifically APHIS, Animal Plant Health Inspection Service, has quite a program on that and is working very actively in that area, because I think what everybody wants to do is capture the benefits of these technologies but avoid some of the mistakes that have happened in the past.
Now, Dionigi, pardon me there, says the council is putting the final touches on a white paper drawn up by its advisory committee. The paper includes a series of recommendations to safeguard against escape of plant hybrids that could become invasive species.
What we would hope is that as especially those in the federal sector are working on biofuel programs, that they would look at these recommendations and take them to heart as they're developing those programs.
Now, that white paper should be available in a week or so on the council's website. You can check out invasivespecies.gov.
So, Margaret, how does the council define invasive species? Is it really any plant that's been taken from its native place to a different area?
No, in fact, Dionigi said only a small proportion of plants are actually invasive. They have a definition on their website. He said it's ones like kudzu that find a new environment so hospitable that they just spread completely out of control. They have so much success, they crowd out other native species, and also they classify a plant as invasive if it in fact damages human health.
Is there any way to tell whether any particular plant is going to become invasive?
Well, that is really exactly the problem. He said they're doing a lot of research on that, but the answer right now is no. It can be very difficult to predict. You may be able to tell if in fact a species became invasive someplace else, but you're dealing with the law of unintended consequences mostly, and that's why it's so important up front to take the kind of precautions that the council is talking about against spreading hybrids while you're still testing them. The point is they're creating these new plants, they don't know what they are, and in many cases may not realize as they create these hybrids whether they can succeed in the environment or not.
And is this a problem that goes beyond biofuels?
Oh yes, there's a lot of work, for instance, on developing algae for carbon capture, and a variety of microbes and other plants for a whole variety of things. I mean, microbes to ferment various biomass feedstocks to create petroleum substitutes such as biodiesel. They're looking at microbes under solar energy irradiation can release hydrogen, creating hydrogen there. Other microbes to extract methane from oil sands without having to heat those sands up. These all involve genetic engineering. They all involve trying to get just the right characteristics by fully, engineering a microbe to do it on a commercial time scale, to do what they do. So the concern for the biosphere is not just the kudzu vines that you can see.
Right.
It's right down to microscopic life forms. They can be very beneficial. They hold out a lot of promise, but there's that law of unintended consequences.
Right. All right, fascinating and very complex. Margaret Ryan, thank you. You can also see Margaret Ryan's entire interview with Chris Dionigi right here on the website.